This is the Left in the Forgotten Borough podcast. I'm Andrew Savage, and Nancy is off on her European adventures. She'll be back in a couple of weeks, but for right now, I am joined by the Honorable District Leader, Madam District Leader from the 61st Assembly District of the Democratic Party. This is Jasi Robinson. Welcome to the podcast. She's our special guest co-host.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me again. I am so honored that I can, share this space with you. So thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, so what have you been up to since the last time you were on the show? You were on the show a while back, I think even before the presidential election. So what have you been up to since?
Well, getting over my depression of losing the presidential election, as you know, it was a great morning, especially with
Oh
the
yeah.
92%.
Oh
We were
yeah.
devastated.
I spent actually that election night watching the results with Nancy at her house, and once it became clear what was going to happen, I Nancy sent me home with a few sleep aids, I'll say that.
Right. I was just, I was, I think we all use sleep aids, and it was and especially for Black women, it was a period of mourning. I know myself, my screensavers were Black. I was not engaged. I was in pure like despair, really, and
Yeah, it was hard. It was, I think it was hard. Just getting out of the doldrums for, a few weeks after that. It was just really terrible. But one of the things I've been inspired to see ever since is that you've sort of been out there on the forefront. You took your time to grieve, and we all took our time to lick our wounds a little bit. But what have you been up to since on that front? Because you've been just all over the place.
where I've been active, I decided to re-engage. I have been working with Win with Black Women, and it's a group that was mobilized other Black women, legislators, activists, and we being on those calls on Sunday nights were are very inspiring, and so it made me galvanize myself. And I would say also to, I call her Forever Rose, former council member Debbie Rose, told me, don't give up the fight. People need you. You need to, we've seen worse. But we've also seen better. So it was her. She was definitely a motivating factor. And also my momager, Gwen Robinson, telling me, okay, shake this off, you know, get your sword and shield and fight the good fight. So that's what I've been doing. I've been working with the Staten Island Action Coalition. They are a
Oh, we love them
great.
here. We love
Oh,
them
okay.
here.
Yes, working with them. I have not been on to the bridge. We can talk about that later. But I have not been on the bridge. But I have been to many of their rallies, of their calls of actions. I was there with the unions. It was the nurses. It was 1199. It was a lot of healthcare union workers, and we actually tried to deliver a letter to Malliotakis, and we were denied. Her staffers said no. So, that was very disheartening, but we didn't give up the good fight. It was a good turnout. A lot of these rallies are really good. They also have this Malliotakis Mondays where they are protesting. It's 4:30, so if you can, please go to in front of Malliotakis' office. They're usually across the street, and they are very active, very engaged. And so if you have that time, that bandwidth, whether you can go there or if you can get their other calls of actions, please do that. What else I've been doing besides
Well, you've been
winning elections?
well,
I'm
you
sorry, go
got
ahead.
you got a I forgot to bring this up before we started recording, but you actually got an award recently. What did
Oh,
you yes?
yes.
What
Yeah.
was that award for? Not that there's not a million things, but what was this one
Oh,
for?
this one was for my it was the Green Award, and I was honored alongside other dynamic, folks and sisters in the movement, Dr. Debbie Ann Page, Kelly Villar, Dorcas Myers, Dr. Heather Butts, and a few other women. And we have our murals, which are on display. My unveiling was last Friday, but you can still see it. It's at Snug Harbor.
Oh,
Um,
I want to see I want to see a Jazzy mural.
yes, it is.
It's at Snug Harbor. Is it? It's in the art gallery at Snug Harbor.
It's in Building G. It's next to the art lab.
Oh, I know where that
So
is. Okay.
yeah, yeah. So it's in the new house building. So Building G, I think that's like right near the Children's Museum.
Okay. Well, fabulous. Congratulations.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm so happy you get your own mural. You are immortalized now.
I know it's very pretty. I like it. It captures who I am and my quote, and so I was very honored to receive that, to be nominated and to receive it. We had a great turnout. It was like about 30 people that attended, and it was a really good turnout for I received the award for my environmental work, my environmental justice work in the community. So I'm really pleased and happy about that. So yeah.
You are one of the people who I find I posted this clip from Nicole Wallace's podcast. She had Rosie O'Donnell on the show, and Rosie said, because there are people who maybe because of all the presence of military in different places and ICE and federal agents that they don't necessarily want to take the risk of going out and protesting. And so she said, you just have to find, Rosie said, you just have to find your community and you have to find wherever it exists. So here, I like to say at the Left in the Forgotten Borough podcast, we are a community in and of ourselves. And groups like the Staten Island Action Coalition also are really good as far as community, but you are kind of one of the big community leaders I think of. So when Nancy told me she was going to be away, I was like, I have to ask her to come be the guest co-host because you were one of the people on the forefront.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. But I did see that podcast too, and whether you feel, and I know a lot of us are afraid, especially activists of color, are hesitant to go out and be on the front lines, especially including myself. So you write letters, call, send emails, send snail mail. And write to your elected officials about what you want to see, and especially congressional. It's super important. We cannot, have this voter apathy or feel that, nothing's ever going to change. We cannot do that. So many of us are going to be impacted, are impacted. We have our marginalized communities, we have our communities of color just to push back. And it's very disheartening to see, um, folks like Charlie Kirk, reimagine as like a Martin Luther King.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
very,
Well, and if
you
you,
know,
well, not to mention if you even question anything he said or use his own words, you are blacklisted, you're out of a job, you are reported to the Salem witch trials for, hanging or burning at the stake because, God knows the people who love free speech, they can't take it when it's turned on them.
no, they cannot. And really, and also too, shame on ABC for what they did to Jimmy Kimmel. Shame on CBS. We're seeing in the media, and I want to pivot this back to you. Thank God that we have, podcasts where we can learn the truth. And so, how do you feel being in that space? That maybe possibly that someone doesn't like what you have to say, that someone may have a concerted effort and be like, what, you know you're the enemy now, you and Nancy,
Yeah.
this is the enemy. I mean, do you guys have any fear of any kind of backlash? Because I mean, as people do listen to the podcast,
Yeah.
and it's very engaging, it's very active. And so do you ever feel that you're a target, or that someone may deem you guys, put you on the list, and and do like this, like you said, the Salem witch trials, like you guys are the enemy now?
Well, a good thing, I think a silver lining of a podcast and that and any and all independent media is that they are not subject to the same rules and standards that the networks are. And so I think people like ABC and CBS are under the gun when they are dealing with the administration because they need them to approve mergers. They need them to uh, they need them to renew their broadcasting licenses. Independent media is independent media. And Nancy and we talked about Jimmy Kimmel extensively. We said that basically that it could be us one day that says that we're on the banned media list or we're on the blacklist of things that people shouldn't watch because we're too subversive or we're too challenging. But it's not as a matter of fear or not fear. It's just fear, but doing it anyway. It's just fear and doing it anyway, just speaking up anyway and using our voices anyway. And I think that what I was heartened to see about the Jimmy Kimmel thing is just how swift the pushback from the American people was. $4 billion in losses in subscriptions. There was a couple who was having their wedding at Disney that canceled the wedding. I imagine that was a venture worth tens of thousands of dollars to them. And so people showed what happens when we vote, not just with our voices and our elected officials, but when we vote with our wallets. And when we vote with our wallets and when we take our money to places that actually support democracy and support freedom of speech and support discourse the way that we do here. And so I am, I first of all, if he came after us, I'd be like, oh, great, this would be great for us. Everybody subscribe, everybody watch. So that would be great for us. But I think that of course, that's always a concern, but you do it anyway.
Right, right,
You do it anyway, and people contribute in whatever way they can. And somebody who I'm thinking about who has always contributed and who always was kind of a stalwart voice in the party, a strategist, a campaign manager, somebody just that everybody knew was Paul Casali. And Paul Casali was a very important figure in our party for many years. I mean, it's not a campaign I could think of where he didn't manage.
right.
It seemed like he did them all. I mean, it seemed like he did them all. I knew Paul for about 15 years, and I knew him when I started working at the Board of Elections in 2010, right out of college. Nobody was hiring teachers at that point, so that's what I did. And so I remember him there, and I remember him working a really late shift with him on election day, and we kept in touch even afterwards and on various campaigns and various efforts. He said he was a listener to the podcast. He did want to come on at some point, but he passed away a few days ago unexpectedly. I was kind of shocked. I was not expecting that. Not that anybody's ever ready for that kind of thing, but it was just very, very shocking and very, very sad, of course. And so, of course, we're thinking of his family, we're thinking of his friends, and also his colleagues and co-workers and Councilwoman Camilla Hanks because he was on her team as well. So, what do you say about Paul? What were your experiences, Jazzy?
Mostly, well, in the beginning, it was like, we were we were adversaries because when I ran in 2018 against Diane Savino, he was working on her campaign. But after, I would say, in 2019, that's when, we the lines of communication opened, and really after when I won district leader, it was, I mean, he didn't have any problems sitting down with me, talking with me, letting me know about political theater and the difference between political theater and actual work, and just being helping me be a better leader. So I will say that about Paul. And there was a situation where my house burned down, and Paul was, very super supportive of myself and my family in our time of need. So I will never forget his kindness, his graciousness, and just telling me to keep going, keep pushing. And so that's what I did, and those are my memories of Paul Casali. I mean, and he was, I mean, and he got it. There's not a lot of people that you can say
Does.
get
He does. He did. Yeah.
he got it.
Yeah.
It was he was like a straight shooter. It was no like phoniness to him. What you saw is what you got from him. Right. If he liked you, he liked you. And if he didn't, he didn't. But what I liked about Paul was that, he gave me a chance. We got to know each other and I would say was really good. And for me, for someone coming up new to the game and to, in this arena, in this setting, to have someone, sit down with me, talk with me. So, that I will say that I'm grateful for the time that we all had with Paul, and now he is reunited with his beloved mother.
Yeah, yeah, that's one, I suppose, way of looking at it. But I was just so floored when I heard about that. It was so, again, not that anybody ever expects that, but it's so shocking, and it was really just sort of, threw me a little bit. And so I'm hoping, that we can all come together as a community within the Democratic Party to remember Paul Casali and to uh, think about his contributions and what he gave to the party. He gave many years to the party, and oftentimes on what I thought were hopeless campaigns. Like I remember he was when I first met him when we were working at the Board of Elections, he would be leaving at night. The hours were 9 to 5, and he would leave, and he was like, "Oh, I'm going to so and so's campaign for South Shore Assembly." I was like, "That's not going to win." I was like, "What are you doing?" And he was like, "Oh, I know, but we still have to keep going. We still have to, put up the fight there." And so I admired that about him, and he had a very witty sense of humor. He was just, as you said, he was just very direct, which I always appreciated about him. And so I'm going to miss him. I will definitely miss him.
Mm.
I will definitely miss his presence in the party. And I hope that his family finds some peace. I know it's not an easy time right now, but I hope that we can all come together. I'm sure there'll be a service at some point and we could all kind of come together and uh, just remember Paul.
Yeah, and I think that his family has a GoFundMe. So, definitely I encourage people to donate. You can donate anonymously as well if you want. But, that can be a good way to honor Paul, would be to donate to the GoFundMe that his family has set up.
Yes, and thank you. I had forgotten about that. We'll put it in the show notes for sure.
Yeah.
So we'll put that in the show notes. But yes, R.I.P. Paul. We will miss you for sure.
Yeah. Sleep in
And
power, Paul.
yes, absolutely. And you had your election as district leader a couple of months ago in the June primary. Um, but a few nights ago, we had the county elections, and there were some developments there. So why don't you talk about that?
Oh, well, thank you for that. Our former chair and vice chair, Debbie Rose, stepped down, and uh, Assemblyman and Deputy Minority Leader Charles Fall is now the chair of the Democratic Party. Sadia Malik is the vice chair, and Danny Casella of ATU is the other co-chair. Um, Cliff Hagan is now I think the corresponding secretary. Nick Popolo is staying on as treasurer. Nick, you can never leave. You're like a stalwart in the party, so you're not going anywhere.
Well, anybody in the party who needs anything related to money or accounting or books, that's Nick Popolo's thing.
There. That is like, yeah, all things money, treasurer, like extraordinaire. He would have to like mentor somebody to like take over. And should he decide to leave us, but he would definitely need to mentor a few people. Because no, I don't think any one person can do what he what he does. And then you have State Senator Jessica Scarcella Spanting still remaining on as secretary. So those are our executive officers. So I'm really excited and looking forward to working, with the new executive officers, especially Assemblyman Charles Fall, because I'm his district leader for his district. So I'm really excited about that. I'm also excited that I was able to second the nomination, for the slate, but in particular for Assemblyman Charles Fall.
Was there, I wasn't there, but was it a contested election or was there everybody pretty much in agreement that this is the
Um,
team they wanted?
Everyone was pretty much, it wasn't, it wasn't like a floor fight or anything of that nature. Charles has been, making the phone calls. Assemblyman Falls, did make the phone calls, did do the outreach and, and really shared his vision for the party. So, when he called me and asked for my support and, and really just basically just told me about, his vision, moving the party forward, uniting us, bringing a big tent, for so everyone can feel comfortable and and especially ushering in younger voters. That is a priority to our new chair now. So I'm really excited to be a part of the new committee.
Well, and we also, and I should note Laura Sword, the former chair, she's coming on the podcast in a few days. And so we all, of course, thank her for her leadership. And uh, it's not easy to be a Democrat on Staten Island these days. And so she led with vision. She led with grace and with candor. And I didn't always agree with her, and but she was the kind of leader, she is the kind of leader that will accept that and then will state her case and will allow you to state your case. And it was never a personal issue, at least not with me. It wasn't a personal issue. And so I'm looking forward to talking to her and about her experiences and where she's coming from and what she plans to do now. But uh, there's a whole lot to get to just out in the world beyond Staten Island. My God. My
A
God.
lot, a lot. And I like to say that, Charles Wood is going to be is the first Black and Muslim um chair of the party, and Laura was the first woman to lead the party. So, whereas we see a concerted effort by, Fat Satan, aka Donald Trump, to erase and minimize the impact of women and especially Black voices. We on Staten Island, we are, and within the Democratic Party here, we're changing that narrative. We are, where we see the effort to try to erase and replace us, where that's not what's happening here on Staten Island and within the Democratic Party. So I'm really proud to be a Democrat, and especially in this day and age where we're fighting a dictator.
Absolutely. And Assemblyman Fall is welcome to come on the podcast and share his vision as well, as is all other newly elected officers. The invitation is open. And the one thing that I think I think we should talk about is that the government shut down after 12 a.m. last night. And that is being spun, particularly by Nicole Maliotakis, as a Democratic shutdown, or what she calls a Schumer shutdown. But I think it's important to note, one, uh, that Democrats did vote for a funding bill in March with Schumer's support. Uh, and basically, what happened is that they came to a deal with the Republicans, and then the Republicans a few months later came back with rescissions and took back the funding they agreed to put towards things like PBS and foreign aid. And so my thing is like, well, why should we negotiate with people who we can't trust, who will turn around a day, a week, a month, 6 months later and say, well, we're going to take that funding back from the things that we promised. And I know that the Democrats publicly, Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, they are basically saying that this is for them about extending the Obamacare subsidies, which will expire and costs are going to go up for folks who are who are receiving insurance through the Affordable Care Act. But for me, I know that's kind of a wonky history teacher thing, the rescissions and who gets to spend money and all that. But for me, that's important because they basically just gave Trump the rescissions he wanted in the beginning of the summer without any kind of, pushback. They just said, oh, he wants these cuts from the previous bill. And they were like, okay, fine. And so why should the Democrats negotiate under those conditions? What do you think?
I agree with you, and we should not negotiate. They are emotional terrorists. And we should not negotiate with terrorists. The Republican Party are terrorists, and I have no qualms about saying that. They don't care about the American people. They don't care about the working class. And shame on Congresswoman Malliotakis for pushing this very false narrative. The Republicans have control of both houses. So how is this the Schumer shutdown?
Yeah.
I don't, yeah, right. And just also too the racism that those memes that are going out about Hakeem Jeffrey and about Senator Chuck Schumer. Shame on the Trump administration for that. So I don't feel badly when Governor Newsom, and his dynamic team comes after Trump and and call him fat Satan and and joke on his weight and his looks, because Trump has no problems doing the same thing to people. This person is low IQ. Everybody's low IQ. You can't even pronounce certain medicines. Okay, let's try this
Vita
again.
Vita Med, Vita Vita Medjool, like I love Lucy.
Right,
That's what
exactly.
it reminded me of.
It's so tasty too. Tastes just like candy.
Yep, yep, that's what it reminded me of. That's what it reminded me of. Vita Vita Medjool, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, well, it was, it's of course he's like a 5-year old, with that meme, and it was terrible. Of course, he put the sombrero and the mustache on Hakeem Jeffries, the black man,
Of course. Of course.
in that situation, and of course, uh, and what worries me though is that I've been doing a lot of this with my students is that the AI stuff, it's so hard to tell. And this was obvious that it was a fake, but
Right.
it was yeah, for people who are not in the know, like it may just sort of be like, oh, well, they said that. They looked like that, they did that.
Right. You don't know if you are not like doing your homework, and AI, sometimes can be something good, but it can also be something bad. And especially if you don't do your homework or you're not, savvy enough to know, okay, this is satire. You can be fooled by as Fat Satan likes to say, fake news, right? And fake information. So we just got to be very careful about disinformation, misinformation.
Yeah, and I think there was some skittishness at first on the part of Democrats when it comes to saying, no, we're going to shut things down because oftentimes the minority party, whichever one it is, tends to get the blame for,
All the time.
yeah, in the public for the shutdown. But what I am liking about what I'm seeing from some Democrats is that in the House chamber, at least, we saw Democrats all show up.
Right.
We saw them all show up, and there was somebody there with a camera, and nobody on the Republican side was there. Nicole was probably on Fox News or something, but
Yeah,
um,
having her town hall. That's
yeah.
how she talks to us.
Yeah, and she was on Fox News or something, but all the Democrats showed up for work, and
Yeah.
what I like about is that they showcase that is that they were there and that they were willing to negotiate. Again, I wouldn't have negotiated. I'm not as good as maybe some of them are, but I would not negotiate with people that you cannot trust and you can't trust them.
No. No, they're terrorists. We cannot negotiate with terrorists, and I know that's an inflammatory statement, but we cannot negotiate with them. They are rational. I mean, when you think about a terrorist, that's exactly what the Republican Party are. They are terrorists. They are irrational. They have no clear course of action or demand. They're very emotional, and they're also very reactionary. So I don't feel that, we should negotiate any time with the Republican Party, especially this one where it's being controlled by Donald Trump.
No, and I know that it's kind of a wonky point, but I think the rescission should have been a bigger part of their argument. The
Right,
rescission, it's not. It's mostly about the healthcare subsidies, and that's the human impact. And so I understand the messaging point of why they decided to go along with the
right,
healthcare as the big issue. But for me, I'm like, well, who gets to actually spend money in this government, and who actually
right,
gets to decide where it goes? And Trump and Russ Vought and a few other people in the administration want it to be them. That's what he was impeached for the first time. Uh,
right.
and but the Constitution is very clear. Article 1 is very clear that it's Congress who has the power of the purse. And so when people like Nicole Maliotakis say it's a Schumer shutdown, uh, I would just want to ask her why she's so willing to give up her own power. Why is she so willing to turn over the power of the purse to Donald Trump? And I know the answer is it's because it's out of political expediency. Out of her own self-interest, which is what she's always been about.
Yeah, yes, and I agree with you. And also too, she's afraid. And I'm going to call it like it is. She's afraid. She's afraid to go against Trump, to speak out against Trump. You can see her, tap dancing for him, and and trying to be I'm using slang. She wants to be a pick me, pick me. She's right front and center for all his bad legislation, pumping false narratives, and just I just want to, talk about this really briefly. The fact that she supported, a bill that cuts, snap that cuts that have so many devastating cuts, and that we will feel it, especially in when it comes down to our healthcare, but more importantly to our hospitals. And I don't know how that is going to greatly impact. I don't know how that's going to impact our most vulnerable folks in society, and especially here on Staten Island. And so shame on her for lying and saying that she's going to take great consideration, about this bill, and she was going to, really think about it. And then, like, in the thief of the night, she supported it. So I'm just really disgusted, with her and her antics. And I do hope that we vote her out and we do what we need to do in 2026.
Yeah, absolutely. And she, well, to me, it was a foregone conclusion, even though she may have said, "Oh, I'm going to think on it." If Trump supported it, she was gonna. And so
Right.
that wasn't, I wasn't holding my breath for her to do something different. But uh, I just want to know, like, that would be the question I'd ask her. Why is she so willing to give up her own power to this person? Why is she so willing? What's the point of having her there if she's going to cede the power that she is constitutionally bestowed to this just, awful blob of a person. I don't even know how to describe him.
And because she's scared, the MAGA movement is very strong, and if you're not with them, then you're against them. And if we are against them, I mean, they, do what they need to do to rally hard against you. You got to be really strong person to handle the backlash. I mean, take for example, the Staten Island Coalition. Take example, people like me, that are on the front lines. I got, one of my little love notes, where I was told that, I'm being watched very, very carefully, or, I need to go back to Cuba because I'm Black and Cuban. Go back to Cuba since you like socialists. So, it does take a strongness, And she doesn't have that. She doesn't have the strongness, the mental ability to fight back and push back against these false narratives and these dangerous narratives, and really not do her job, what she's supposed to do as our elected official, because it's supposed to be for we the people, not not you serving um, President Trump and his whatever he feels like doing for the day. You know, oh, okay, I feel like, canceling, taking away PBS. Okay, that's what we'll do. Oh, wait, I decided that, I'm going to remove any and all things related to the civil rights movement. Oh, wait, anything, transgenders, you guys are, a public enemy, and you guys are bad. So, no,
Yeah. Yeah,
no.
absolutely. And it's a gamble. It's a gamble for Democrats to take the shutdown stance, but I'm happy that they're doing it. I'm
Yes,
happy. I'm happy that they're doing it. I'm happy. I want federal employees to be paid. I want uh, the government to be functional, but I don't want to fund a government that is doing the things that this government is doing. I don't want to do that. I think we need to take a stand. And I realize that from a messaging perspective, you can't make it about everything because that gets confusing for people. But
right.
I don't want to fund a government that's going to snatch people off the streets or that's going to use the FCC to pressure Jimmy Kimmel or that's going to enrich the president by billions because of his corruption in crypto and everything else. I don't want a government that's going to fund a government that's going to do all these things. And so I think it's important that Democrats take a stand. Again, like everybody else, I'm not sure where it ends, or how it ends, or when it ends, but I think that they have to take a stand, and the Democratic base for a long time has demanded that.
Yes, we have on the ground, boots on the ground. Democrats and activists have demanded that, and we cannot cave, or we cannot make any deals. There should be no deals made, and we should need to stay the course. We are on the side of right. We have always been on the side. The Democrats have always been the side have been the party of union, of labor, of men, of black and brown, the working class, LGBTQ. So we need to, knuckle down. We need to stay the course and fight the good fight, because we can win. When we fight, we win.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know. I was thinking the other day, I was watching, you mentioned Gavin Newsom's social media presence, and it is quite funny. A lot of it is quite funny. I love the JD Vance couch video. That was just amazing. And I think he could maybe just teach, maybe this, I don't know, maybe Democrats need to go away for a weekend on a retreat and have Gavin Newsom train them on social media because I'm looking at Hakeem Jeffries, who I think is just so boring and so robotic and just so, and he's so stiff a lot of the time, and it's so scripted. You could see the teleprompter playing in his head. And I was just sort of like, I was like, oh God, we need like Gavin to like bring us all to a California wine retreat one one weekend and just give everybody a crash course on social media.
Or Jasmine Crockett, because she's a
Oh, she's
firecracker too.
she's good too. She's excellent at it
Yeah,
too. Yeah, she's very good. AOC is very good. I just saw
but
before we went on there was a joint AOC and Bernie video like explaining the particulars of the shutdown, and so those were
yeah.
those were very good. But if I see Hakeem Jeffries with his hands, extreme MAGA Republicans, if I see that again, like I'm just gonna like
Just I feel the same way too, and I think he was on some news program, and the comment was made, oh well, we're going to write a very strongly worded letter.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah, yeah. A strongly worded letter. Yeah, yeah, I saw that too. The strongly worded
That's
letter.
such, right. A strongly worded letter would be like, to your supermarket, or a strongly worded letter would be to, let's say, like to the movie theater or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
You
Yeah,
know, I don't know of a single dictator that's ever been stopped by a semicolon.
yeah, exactly. Or exclamation point.
Yeah. And so I think that the Democrats in the House in particular, I don't, I know people have criticized Chuck Schumer, but I kind of have an affinity with him. I kind of grew up watching him and, you know, all that. And so, and I know he's made some mistakes lately and he's done some cringy things right lately, but, um, I think with Hakeem Jeffries, Democrats in the House have the chance to kind of nip this in the bud and just pick somebody else. Please, 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 for the love of
Please, 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 please. And shame on Mike Johnson for not swearing in the new uh congresswoman from Arizona. I think her
Yes,
name is yeah. He
Adelita.
won't swear in.
Yeah, yeah, Adelita. She was the new one, and we know why he's doing that. And I'll just
Right.
emphasize my shirt here a little bit.
Yes,
Um,
that's why I wanted to pivot to that.
yeah, so Mike Johnson is not swearing in the new member of Congress from Arizona because she is the 218th vote on Thomas Massey and Ro Khanna's discharge petition to force a release of the Epstein files. And if you need no other reason to know why he's doing that, just look at my shirt. I mean, I'm sure. And interestingly enough, the four Republicans that are signing on to this are Thomas Massey, who's one of the co-sponsors, and then Lauren Boebert, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Nancy Mace. So all the Democrats plus them are they are at 218 now for this. And
Yeah,
so they are at 218 now for this. And even those ghouls have more integrity than Nicole Maliotakis for signing on to
right,
this. Because of course, you
right.
know, this is all happening without her support.
Of course. And we definitely need the release of the Epstein files because if you remember, the Republicans, that was their, that was something that was like their, one of their talking points that, we would find like Bill Clinton, we would find so many of us Democrats on this and, we were afraid, but it looks like all of you are afraid. And going back to your shirt, that's why.
Yeah. Well, and the
That's why
one
they're afraid.
yeah, well, the ones that have been released so far from the House Oversight Committee, um, from what they got from the Epstein estate, those
Right.
those have the ones that have been released. You know, Elon Musk is in them.
Okay.
Steve Bannon is in them. And so every attack on us is always a projection and a confession of their own behavior. And
Right.
and then ironically enough, I think it was Elon Musk who started this whole thing with Jeffrey Epstein when they had their public falling out. And he said that Trump is in the Epstein files. And so he was the one that kind of started it. And now here he is in the files.
Yes. And it's like, and going to your point where you said about projection, it's like that saying, every time you point a finger at somebody, three fingers always point back at yourself.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so uh, we're hoping, you know, I'm hoping for some resolution to the shutdown where uh, the Democrats and the Democratic leaders don't look like we've totally given in and that we've totally bent the knee and uh, that we've maintained a little bit of our dignity, just a little bit.
Just a
And
little bit. Yeah. No, no strongly worded letters, just
yes,
action.
please, please, you know, and
No,
Democrats, please pick somebody else, not this fucking robot. I can't. Oh, it's
no.
just he doesn't have the like. I was thinking about the last shutdown before this one. I was thinking
Right.
it was when Donald Trump was president, the first time, and it was Nancy Pelosi who was the Speaker of the House during that shutdown,
Right.
and that one lasted about a month. That was the longest one in history. And
Yes.
and I just thought about, you know, I know people have their issues with Nancy Pelosi too, but she was so masterful and strategic about how she went about that. She held all the Democrats together. Not one of them caved during the whole time.
No.
Um, she owned the messaging about it. She said
Yeah.
this is because technically it was happening in the transition between when Republicans were in the majority to back when she was going to be the speaker. And
Right.
so she said they did this. This is them. We're, you
Right.
know, we're not doing this. And then And then just that appearance she made in the Oval Office where she just kind of dressed him down. She was just so masterful at that, and Akeem Jeffries just doesn't have that.
It
He just doesn't have that gravitas. He just doesn't have that political. He just doesn't have the acumen. He doesn't have any of that, and he's just so wind him up, and he'll say the talking points, and that's it. And so
right.
yeah, so I'm just hoping we do better and find somebody better. Like I just can't.
Anybody.
Yes, I know
Anybody.
I know she's like 88, but I'll take her back. We'll take-
Right, right, right. I don't mind. I don't mind. I don't mind
She
her
knew what she knew what she was
I think
doing.
Trump has yeah, and Trump had called her nasty Pelosi. And I'm like, call it whatever you want. I like it.
She
I like
won,
it.
but she came out almost on the top end of all of those exchanges, and
Yes.
she knew what she was doing, and this guy is just sort of, like I said, just sort of, he's like one of those toys. You just sort of wind him up, and he'll say whatever you want, like the puppet that he is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's well. Nancy never lets me shit on Hakeem Jeffries, so thank you for doing that because she likes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, she likes him. She likes him, so
Oh, okay.
she never
I like
lets
him
me.
too.
She
I like
she
him too. But you gotta, to have to say what you have to say. And yeah, he's boring,
oh,
dull. I mean, even
he's boring, but he's also just like I can't even listen to him speak because he speaks in these fragments that drive me crazy as a teacher. I'm like, stop it, just
and it's
complete
the
the sentence.
hands, and he
Yes.
tries like
Yeah.
the only time I really like him is when he's rapping. When
Oh
he
yeah.
raps, he's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
When he's a little bit more animated when he's rapping. When he was doing the ABCs, the A through Z's of like democracy or whatever. But he was pretty good with that. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm engaged somewhat, a
Yeah.
little bit,
Oh, I know. I just would it kill you to just talk like a human being for 5 minutes? That's all I want.
just a little bit. Just
Yeah.
give us a little bit, little
Yeah.
bit of seasoning,
Yeah.
a little bit of
Yeah.
seasoning.
And well, even Chuck Schumer, I mean, I was at the inauguration for Jessica Scarcella Stanton a few years ago, and he was there and he gave his speech, and I was like, I've heard this speech before, and
Right.
it was actually the speech he gave when Matt Titone was sworn in eons ago.
Right. I
It
didn't
was
want to
the
say it,
same speech. It was the same speech.
because I said, "Hey, this sounds familiar."
Yeah, it sounds very
Just add
familiar.
and replace.
And he's done that at a few graduations too. He's like, I've been to a few graduations where he's been, and I'm like, I've heard this before.
Right. Just like remove and insert,
Yes. And so, we might need some new we might need some new leaders. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping after 2026, even if the Democrats win the majority in both houses, I'm hoping they go with somebody else in both cases.
Right. Because we desperately need that. And going to your point about new leadership, we definitely need some younger voices. We have people that's been there and they're reaching like 92, 88, and they're still wanting to go for reelection. And I think at some point you have to pass the torch.
Oh, I mean, the DC in DC, the national soldiers on the street and their delegate, they don't have any voting power, but the delegate there, Eleanor Holmes Norton, is basically infirmed. Like
Yeah. Right.
she's infirmed, and they need somebody who's out there on the street saying, "Get these fucking soldiers out of here, please."
Right. And she's still determined to run for reelection. She says, I'm still, in all my, faculties, and I'm going to run.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, did we not learn from last year? I mean, that doesn't work. Um,
No,
yeah, and well, not that we're against old people or anybody else, that
no, no, no.
we're not Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth talking to the military now.
Oh, fat military, right?
Well, this guy, well, first there was Pete Hegseth. I mean, and then there was Trump. And what I enjoyed about the generals themselves is that they were silent. Is that
Right,
they were silent throughout the whole thing. And just so our listeners know what we're talking about, Pete Hegseth called generals back from everywhere, wherever they were stationed, here and across the world, and gave them this speech about being done with woke whatever in the military and no more fat, no more fat generals. We might want to tell the president, like,
right.
you might want to tell him.
Cankles. Yeah, cankles, right?
Yeah, we might want to tell him that. No more fat generals, and we're done with the gender stuff, and we're and we're done with all the woke stuff, and it was just basically a total, you know, dressing down of the people who were there, and you could see there were a few pictures of people in the audience, and they weren't visibly, you couldn't tell for all of them what they were thinking. They were mostly stoic, but there was this one guy who had the face palm.
Right.
Yeah, and I was, not that this was good, but I was just worried that this was going to be like, well, we're declaring martial law. I hope you're all ready. Like that's what I was hoping it wasn't going to be.
That's what I was fearful of that. I'm glad that you brought that up because that's seeing that and I'm like, here goes. So it begins. That's what I was terrified for.
Yeah, I was thinking, well, when I heard that he wanted to bring people, but then whoever is in his orbit must have been leaking because we had been hearing about some of the themes of what he was going to say over the days before. And I was like, oh, okay, it's just more propaganda. Not that that's great, but it's better than what I thought. It's better than what I thought it was going to be. Um, and then, of course, he gets up there, general drunk Pete Hegseth with his white supremacist tattoos and everything else, and he spews his propaganda, and then Trump gets up there and he's totally meandering and all over the place and dementia ridden. My God.
Yeah. Yes. He had so much criticism about Joe Biden, but I your speeches, your coordination skills aren't that great either, Mr. I trip up the steps. I can see people tripping down the steps. How do you that must take a talent for you to trip up the steps.
Well,
He
I can't bother him there. I've fallen up steps before.
Right, but you've never used your platform and said that you're the most coordinated,
Oh
you're fit,
yeah.
you're the best, you're the best. I'm the best,
He's a
best
stable
at everything.
genius. He's a stable genius.
Stable genius, right? What was that other thing that he did? Orange. It was supposed to be orange, and he was like orange. He was trying to say orange,
Oh,
and and
he may have slurred his words a bit, I think. And
yes,
yeah,
yes,
he's he's definitely not well. And he got up there and also talked about using blue cities or democratic cities, which includes ours, as a training ground for the
right,
military. And
right.
and uh And then he said, we have to deal with the enemy within. And you and I and everybody who listens to this podcast and everybody who is involved in the community in the way that we are, we're the enemy within, according to him.
Right. That's a dog whistle.
Yeah.
If anybody, there's no mistake. That was a clear dog whistle.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. Well, the enemy,
then yeah,
the enemy within. He was talking about that before the election too. And I have a shirt that says, I'm the enemy within.
yeah.
So,
Well, okay, and I need to get that as well. Enemy within. I need to purchase that shirt as well. And yeah,
yeah, and so it'll be interesting. One of the things I am concerned about with the shutdown, not that they're not already doing this, but that they'll have carte blanche to do the kinds of more egregious things, and there won't be anybody around to say no,
right. No,
don't
no
do
checks
that.
and balances.
Nothing.
Right. Yeah.
Not that they're not
Snatching
already.
anybody, and yeah, not to say that they aren't already doing it, but just taking any and everybody. Um, off
Yeah.
the streets, going into their homes. Like my sign, non-order. That's exactly, the sentiments now is it's a lot of that, and so it is a fearful time, especially if you are, considered to be an enemy of the state, or if you are, someone from the immigrant community, whether you are, and notice how they're only going after the, black and brown immigrants. They're not going after any other groups but us, and that's truly terrifying and scary. And it's a sad day. And but we got to stand in solidarity with one another. It may not be you, but one day it could be you. So that's why it's so important that we stay together and we be united.
Yeah, well, the only thing that I, take any saving grace in is that uh, while these people are autocratic, they're criminal, they are sociopaths, they're also fucking stupid. My God, they're just some of the dumbest people.
Yeah.
Evil,
But they're
evil and
stupid. They're
stupid.
stupid. They're evil and stupid. But you have people that follow them and believe. You look here on Staten Island. I mean, you look at, Charlie Kirk, and now this movement to, reimagine him as like a Martin Luther King. October the 14th is supposed to be some remembrance of him. Why? He was a
Yeah.
racist. He was a bigot. Why? I don't understand, how that was able, why that happened. He is not a man of faith. He was a puppet to spew right wing propaganda and hate. The comments that he made about the LGBTQ community, the comments that he made about black people, but in particularly black women, DI. I mean, he was a community college dropout, and you are talking about Kamala Harris. That she didn't deserve. She's a DI hire. Shame on you.
Or Justice Jackson, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. I mean, some
Yes,
pretty
yes.
eminently qualified and exceptional black women too. I mean, it
Yeah,
just
and just for, and I have to say this, black women, we are, defying the odds, and we are one of the most educated groups, in the world, but in particular in the United States. We have the most degrees, and now we see such an effort to block us, and also with the jobs, a lot of black women have lost their jobs. There has been like I think about 300 and 350 100,000 black women have lost their jobs, that were gainfully employed within the federal government. They lost their jobs, and so the fact that we have to work around these obstacles that are in place to stop us, but we won't be stopped. We're going to still continue to do what we need to do, and we've seen this playbook before. We've seen it during Jim Crow. We've seen it, time and time again. And so we're going to beat them at their own game, and we're going to win, and we're going to fight, and we're going to continue to not to be erased and replaced. We're going to stand our ground.
and as well we should, as well we should. And uh I just, as somebody getting back to the Pete Hegseth speech, somebody said this meeting could have been a signal chat.
Right. The Viola. I like the Viola Davis, the
Yes.
Adams.
Oh,
Yeah.
it has particular salience because of his Signalgate, debacle a few
Yes.
months
Yes.
ago.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
this could have been a signal chat, and it probably was, but
It probably was, and they
yeah.
got better at this time, woefully. And can we just really highlight the fact that all of his appointees are woefully um, not qualified, underqualified. We're talking about Robert Kennedy Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, Crazy Eyes, Kash Patel, Pete, all of them, just not Pat Bondi, another all star. um,
Linda
Caroline Levitt,
Linda McMahon, the
Linda
WWE,
McMahon, right? Who did not know about Ruby Bridges
or
or silent.
IDEA, the
Yes,
Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, as the Secretary of Education.
kitchen, right? What was it? She said the A1 sauce. There,
Yes.
A1.
A1. Yeah, they're going to be using A1 a lot. Yeah. And then I saw some brilliant AI generated images of her watching students with an AI dressing like an AI steak sauce bottle.
The same sauce, yes.
That was too funny, but it's funny, but it's like it's deadly serious all at the same time, and it's just sort of it's I don't know, we're kind of an idiocracy, Nazi Germany, and a kakistocracy all at once.
Yeah, just yeah, like you said, all of the above.
Yeah, yeah, and Donald Trump is also had his imprint in the New York City mayor's race. Donald Trump, and I told people months before it actually happened that it would, and nobody listened. But I said
I
that
listened. I heard
yeah.
you. I
Yeah,
listened.
yes, you did. You did. But I mean, I said, I said Cuomo would sell. I remember back in March, people said, "Oh, Cuomo will stand up to Trump." I was like, "No, he won't." I was like, "No, he won't." I was like, Are we talking about the same guy? Come on." And and so it's of course months later, and we found out that, of course, after he loses the primary, Cuomo, that he runs his independent candidacy fine, and then uh, we see Donald Trump is putting his finger on the scale for Andrew Cuomo in many different ways. One of them seems to be Eric Adams dropping out of the race. Although I'm skeptical of the impact that that's going to have. I don't think that that's going to benefit Andrew Cuomo in the way that he thinks it might. I think because it's very hard to get on the ballot, as you know, and it's very tough
Yes.
to get off the ballot too. And so
Yes.
he's still going to appear on the ballot. And
Yeah.
there were people last year, the presidential, who asked Google, is Joe Biden still running for president? And so people
Right.
may assume that he's still in the race, and there's a million other things happening that bury it in the headlines. And so I don't think it's going to have the impact that Cuomo thinks it is. Cuomo is probably cheering, and I'm sure there's probably pressure on Sliwa right now to get out of the race. So, what do you think about all this?
I am very optimistic. I'm cautiously optimistic. I remember there was a dynamic candidate named India Walton in Buffalo, and the establishment did not want India Walton to win in the general election, and they had, I think his name is Byron Daniels, in Buffalo, and he won the general election, and he shouldn't have, because the establishment did what they could to undermine her candidacy, and she won the primary, hands down. She won it, and the establishment did not want her, and they wanted someone that they felt was a real Democrat. And I really want to touch on that. Like, what does that mean to be a real Democrat? You're talking about issues that are impacting. You're talking about affordability. You're talking about transportation. You're talking about infrastructure. We're seeing so much come out about Eric Adams, and like the nepotism and the favoritism, and the fact that he had all of these bribery charges against him. And so, what does it mean to be a real Democrat? People look at Mandani and they say that he's not a real Democrat. He's no one, the establishment, it seems to be lukewarm to endorse him, which is shameful. He did something that was so historic. The fact that he was able to make the impossible possible. He got young people to come out, and especially out here on Staten Island. He lost to Andrew Cuomo. I wouldn't say lost. He came up short by 9 votes. By yeah, it was by
Right.
9 points.
Yeah, it was 9 points.
About 9 points.
Yeah, it was about
Here
2,000
on
votes.
Staten Island.
Yeah.
Here on Staten Island. that says a lot. And the fact that, I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna toot my own horn here, but Port Richmond was one of the counties that carried him over, that he actually won. Or another, and he also did well in certain parts of the South Shore.
Yeah, he did. Actually, I saw a Suffolk University poll recently where he and Cuomo were tied for first place here on Staten Island. And
Right,
Zohran Mamdani, that is. And so uh, I think he'll do better here than a lot of people might expect. But, well, not that I need any more reasons to shit on Hakeem Jeffries. I've done it enough. But I mean, when Eric Adams dropped out of the race a few days ago, I mean, Hakeem Jeffries exalted this praise on him,
right.
and talked about his service, and yet he is yet to endorse Zohran Mamdani, the rightful winner of the Democratic Party primary in June.
Right. And so what do we say about that? We are always told as progressives, and you and I, we've had these conversations. We're always told, vote blue no matter who. You
Mhm.
know, um, you know, just vote and support and we have to be good soldiers. So is it vote blue no matter who, or is it vote blue just not you? Because that's
Yeah,
what I feel like it is.
yeah.
Vote blue, but I'm not too sure about you.
Yeah, and I was trying to like think about what could be the possible reasons. I know his district is very heavily Jewish in some areas, and I know that there's some reservations about Mamdani among certain Jewish constituencies. But I think maybe he just doesn't want to be tied to the socialist label ahead of the midterms next year. But in any case, I think he's the rightful winner of the party's primary, and he should absolutely receive the endorsement and support of the party. I went and saw Kamala Harris the other night at the town hall, and she said that she reaffirmed her support for Zohran Mamdani. I was there, and so I think that we need to listen to the voters when the voters say that they want somebody or something. And I saw a thing about a comedian. Somebody sent me a comedian's thing on Facebook or Instagram or something, and it was this comedian who said, we had this primary in New York City, and we had a clear winner, but everybody just seemed to run on anyway. Like it just like
Right.
Cuomo's still running. He fucking lost. Like he,
Right.
he fucking lost, and he's
Right.
still
We don't
running.
want you, bro.
Yeah,
Stop it. We don't want you, bro. Like,
yeah.
go away. No means no.
Yeah, well, I'm not surprised that he has trouble with that. Let's put it that
Oh,
way.
okay. Oh, no means no. Right.
I'm not surprised he's got trouble with that. But because
Yeah.
yeah, there are many women who could probably attest to the fact that no is a problematic word for him. And
Yeah.
so yeah, and so I'm just hoping that the Democratic Party kind of comes to its senses and listens to its young voters and listens to the people who are not part of the old guard because I think that Mamdani is speaking to real issues. I mean, he's coming in first here on Staten Island, according to that Suffolk University poll.
Yeah. Yes.
And that was a shock to me. I was like, wow, here on Staten Island.
Right. That was right. And you and I both know, that when we went to his event, his five tour, the boroughs. I mean, we saw the ugliness of that, and the fact that he came out again, a few days later, and to show that he was not going to be stopped, and that he is going to come out here and make Staten Island a priority. That to me, that shows real courage and bravery, and so I'm going to support him. He's the Democratic nominee. County endorsed him, and so I'm going to support him. And October 4th, if you are on county, there's going to be a canvassing, a campaign canvas event. For Mondani, his campaign. October 4th, which is a Saturday. I believe it's from 12 to 3. So if you need more information, I can give you the link. You can sign up and you can door knock, canvas, but we need to pull it out here. He is a Democratic nominee. I know that others, did not, other, Democrats are not supporting, Mandami, and and that's okay. That's your choice. But, don't come to us and say vote blue no matter who, because we don't forget. And it's not to play tit for tat, but we as progressive have always had to hold our nose and vote. The same should be for moderates, for just, I guess, mainstream Democrats. You should do the same. If we're expected to do that, you should be expected to do that as well. It shouldn't be conditions or, well, I don't know. Well, I don't know, because we can have that, and we get reprimanded. What are you doing? You're gonna make us lose. And so we toe the line. They should be expected to toe the line as well. I mean, am I right or wrong here? I do feel
Well,
that we
yeah.
should be able to.
Well, I think that I'm of a few minds on this. I think that oftentimes what happens, and seems, and it was a lifetime ago, but I remember in 2016 when Trump won. Trump won without much establishment support in when he won, and
Right,
he hadn't molded the party to the way that it is right now, and so
right,
it's easy to forget that because now it's just a fucking who knows what. And so, but I remember I was looking back at it and I remember Mitch McConnell hadn't really endorsed him in 2016 and hadn't really expressed support until after he won.
right,
And so Paul Ryan too.
right,
And those were kind of the Republicans of those times. And so I thought as it relates to Mamdani, well, maybe it's just, the part he's offering a lot of things that maybe go too far left for some of them, and maybe they'll come around and they'll adjust. And the people who adjusted to Trump went all in the Republican Party, and
right.
the people who didn't were just sort of purged. And I don't know if that's a dynamic that's going to take place here. Democrats don't tend to do that. We don't tend to purge people in the same way that they do. Like it's clearly a personality cult for them. But I'm thinking that, sometimes the party just has to adjust. And I was speaking to somebody who will remain anonymous, and they were talking about the fact that why certain elected officials haven't come out and endorsed. And part of the reason is that the districts that they're in, it would be political suicide for them. And the districts include places that, have a very bad historical reaction to the term socialist. It means something very different for them than it does to anybody else. And I think what will help is Mamdani, I think he's got about a 98% chance of winning. And when he does, I think the best way to combat some of the reticence is just to show some results. And hopefully his policies do, and hopefully with time and with those accomplishments, people start to come around.
I can support that, and I can see that viewpoint. But in the same vein that we as progressives or as socialists, or or just liberals, that we've often had to toe the line. So why can't we expect our counterparts to do the same? It's not unreasonable.
No, it's not. Absolutely not. And I think, and I know that I'll talk about this with Laura when she comes on in a couple of days, but there was an article that basically implied that, Laura was run out of town because county endorsed Zohar Mamdani, and that's not true.
No,
The
no, it's not. It's no, that's false. That's a lie, and that's not what happened. And nor did she get an appointed job for from the Mandani campaign. To be working in the administration. So that's a lie too. That's a false narrative. That's not the reason why, she can speak to herself, but as someone that worked closely with her, and I have my differences with our former chair, but the fact is that, she and I worked very well together, and for that to be put out there, shame on them. And that was not the reason why she can speak to, the reasons why she was. But if she could have continued on, she would have. So she was not run out of town. It wasn't anything of that nature. That is false lies that's being spread around about what really happened. But that's her story to tell, not mine. But I will say that that is false narrative, and it's just the negative narratives that try to, tear us apart as Democrats here on Staten Island and within county. So that's not that. We have a new chair. We're going to be working really hard to unite the party, to make it stronger, and really bringing in, people that felt disenfranchised, people that feel, like a voter apathy, younger voters. So we are going to do the work to unite and build bridges, and we have that with Chair Falls, and with our new dynamic executive team, and with our new committee chairs. So we're going to be doing the work, and shame on those that are spreading those false rumors about former chair Laura Swart, because that was not the case. And people are going to say whatever they want, but Laura put in her heart and soul into this party. And you may not always agree with her, but the fact is that she stood where she stood, and she fought the good fight. And I'm proud that she was the first woman to lead us. Hopefully she will not be the last, but she was the first to do it. And I'm really proud that we accomplished. Well, we had some losses, but we made it. We gained a lot of ground as well.
Yeah, and I normally don't say much when it comes to the intra-party squabbles because it mostly just amounts to personality conflict a lot of the time.
Yeah, and it's distractions.
Yeah,
It's distractions, and that's just a tactic to distract us. She had to step down. It was not because she was run out of town, or anything of that nature. She lost the support of the party. No, she didn't. That was not the case. That is a false narrative. And the fact that we are rebuilding, we are recouping and regrouping, and we are rebranding, and we're gonna take this fight on, because we have some tough battles ahead of us. But we're not afraid to fight. And as being one of the strongest, baddest Democrat Party bosses there is, I'm ready to put down like my sword and shield and fight the good fight. I'm like the Arya Starks of the Democratic Party. I am ready. I can throw down. I've been uh,
a girl needs no president.
exactly.
The girl needs no president.
No,
And what do we say to failure? Not today.
not today.
hmm Not today.
Not today.
Yeah, and I was saying I don't normally involve Nancy and I don't involve ourselves in the inter-party squabbles because we want to keep the lines of communication open and we want people to feel free to come here and talk about whatever with us, and we want to basically just we want people to feel like they have a platform here with us, and so we don't do that. But I did intervene online to say that to defend Laura's record, but also to say that she is doing what a party chair is supposed to do when there's a clear winner in a primary. The voters have made themselves clear.
Yeah, and she did that. And the fact that we see more, I mean, going to county, especially the night that night. I mean, I saw so many new faces, younger faces, and I'm like, yes, this is what it is. And the fact that that we were brave enough to do that, and that we did endorse him. And he did come out here. to accept our endorsement, meant a lot. And, we are, and some of us are, are volunteering or door knocking, canvassing, for the campaign. And so, this is a new time. We have never seen anyone this electrifying. I mean, Obama, yes, but for younger people, it's like, his social media game is
Well,
like
we're
top tier.
Well, we're inviting him to the retreat with Gavin. We are when
Okay, he
Gavin
can be, yeah, yeah,
when
yeah,
Gavin brings us to the wine retreats
yes,
somewhere in Northern California.
yes,
We're going to have Zoran there too, and Hakeem Jeffries with his teleprompter and stiffness and the hand.
yeah, like the
Yeah,
augmented robot, yeah.
they have to give some of those people tutorials because they just they do it really well.
Yeah, and Jazzy Crockett. So we gotta make sure she's there. AOC, Uncle Bernie. We gotta make sure that they are at the retreat as well.
Yeah, well, Zoran's video, the one that stood out to me was during the primary where he talked about, and I was, marginally following him at that point. It wasn't clear that he was going to get to where he is now, but I remember him talking about the price of halal and how that had increased, and it was like it went from I don't know maybe $4 to now it was $8 or something,
Right.
and that resonated with people. People started to talk about that.
Right. They're like, hey, Habibi, what's going on? And I like that. And speaking about his social media game, there was someone, this MAGA Republican that was cooking bacon, and he said, the Trumpster said, bon appetit, and it was with the bacon. He said, "Here's to you, bon, not bon appetit, but bon petit." So, Ron said, brother, we are Muslims. We're not vampires.
I
We're
remember,
Muslims.
I remember that. I remember that. It was,
Yeah. He said bon appetit to you too.
yeah, I remember that. And, and what I also like about what Zoran's doing, and I never miss an opportunity to shit on Andrew Cuomo, but he's just, every ad that he puts out becomes a cell phone in some way, Andrew Cuomo.
Right,
And because he did something like, oh, I know I can't do many jobs, and then he had these AI generated images of him as a window washer and everything.
right, sir. Right.
And Zoran did such an amazing troll on that. It was so funny, and like people have to go and check it out. It's too funny. But
It's
every
it's it's hilarious. It's
every
hilarious.
every time Andrew Cuomo attempts to be Zoran Mamdani in his campaign style, it just epically fails, and it becomes such a cell phone.
And it becomes like such like a you know we he uses that, and he uses it against him, and we're all laughing at him. We're like, yeah, no, I can never see you as a window washer. I literally just saw that before I came on and joined you. I was literally watching that because I can't do every job, but I can do one job. Like, yeah.
Mm, not even
Hmm.
not even that one. I'm just really looking forward to watching him lose again.
Yeah, I am. I'm
I'd really
I'm
hope
looking
he.
forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. I really feel I'm cautiously optimistic, having that, in my brain what happened to India Walton. But I feel that if the same ones that came out, and you also got to know too that now people that are not that don't have a party, that are like working families party, that are unaffiliated, they can vote in this election, and a lot of them are very supportive of Mandani. So I really do think, I think he's going to take it by a much higher larger number, considering the fact that we have people that you got to be a Democrat to vote in the primary, but there are people that are not Democrats that couldn't vote, but that are going to vote in the general election. So I think he's going to kill it in the general election. With the Working Families Party, people that identify as independent, or unaffiliated or whatever the case may be. So I'm cautiously optimistic, and I really look forward to seeing what his administration, will do in the first 100 days. And Rome wasn't built in a day. There's going to be things that we may not agree with him on, but the fact that he's working within our own best interests, I can support it.
Well, I'll ask you this, and then, we gotta run. But what if and when he wins, uh, will Madam District Leader be Madam Borough Representative to the Mayor on
I
Thursday?
would like to your lips, what is it, to your lips to God's ears? I would love that opportunity. I always joke whenever I see him, I'm like, hey, just remember, deputy mayor, and that would be so. Could you imagine that?
Oh,
Me, a deputy mayor?
yeah, yeah. Well, you're aiming even higher. I was just like, because I remember certain when like De Blasio got elected, there was a Staten Island Borough Representative. I was thinking, well, like if Mamdani gets elected, like who better to represent Staten Island?
It's Jazzy Robinson.
Yes.
So I'm definitely, I mean, yes, I'm aiming high. Even if I'm just, like a consultant or whatever the case may be, I would not mind being that. But I am putting in my shameless plug to be the Staten Island rep for the Mandani campaign administration. So yes, and I am one of his surrogates out here. So I'm just honored and flattered to be just a surrogate, and should that lead to, whether I am or not, that doesn't, that will not change my support of him. I'm focusing on really local Staten Island and really building us up as a party. So if I get that, that's great. If not, it's still great because I'm still gonna, fight the good fight and build us up, and hopefully 2026 comes around and we will have a new congressperson, Troy McGhie. Hashtag McGhie for me.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you about that. Do you think that, we'll talk a little bit about the congressional race, but do you think that there's going to be a primary? Because I've heard of some rumblings about Justin Brannan maybe jumping in and just maybe one or two others. I personally believe that a primary makes whoever the general election candidate is better. And so I'm hoping that maybe there is a primary. So this way, we can sort out differences in the party and maybe differences of approaches to the general election. What say you about that?
I mean, okay, so I love Troy. I'm not gonna hide that. Troy has always been very supportive of me, but Troy is a make sense kind of Democrat. He's not too much on the right, he's not too much on the left. He's a make, that's what I call it, a make sense. Make it make sense. And that's who he is to me. And he's always been like that kind of center, one of those Democrats leaders that have been a center for me. Whenever I feel like I'm veering off a little too much or going off the rails a bit, Troy has always been, and especially within the party, that I call it Teacher Troy, and he can bring the teacher Troy in and really, galvanize us and really bring us back to our focus. I'm not opposed to a primary, but I want people to remember that Troy was the first candidate to declare, and he's out here, he's doing the work. He's fighting the good fight. He's showing up for the other candidates. He's registering people to vote, and so he's doing the work. I'm not. I love JB. If JB gets into it, I love him too. But my support would be for Troy. And if it's JB, I'm gonna totally go for him and help him do. But if it's Troy, I'm
Yeah, well,
either.
we support the Democratic nominee
Yeah, we
always,
support
always.
whoever it is,
Yeah,
whoever it is. But in the
and we
primary,
actually we actually mean it when we say that. We
yeah,
actually
we
mean
would
it.
actually mean it. I'm like, I vote blue no matter who. Like
Yeah.
if I gotta hold my nose, I do vote blue no matter who. I mean, even though there are some Democrats that don't do that and they support, others, Democrats in name only, but that's another story for another day. But anyway, I do support Troy McGhie. I support anyone that's able to stop Malliotakis.
Yeah, absolutely. And I haven't said who like I would support publicly, like because I want to, if there is a primary, I want all candidates to feel like they could come here and
Yeah,
I,
right, right,
you
right.
know,
Of course.
yeah, and they could, and I've interviewed both of them. I've interviewed Troy. I've interviewed Justin when he was running for controller, and so they were both really compelling in their own ways. I think that Troy has a very. I told him this too. I said I figured out you were running when we were at that rally in March in front of
Yeah,
Maliotaka's offices. I said I figured out where you were running. I said you had this command in the way you spoke, and you were very much speaking like somebody who was running, and then when Justin was on, I we were talking about the controller race and some of the issues there and what the Democrats need to do to kind of get their groove back a little bit. And I said to him, "Well, if you don't win this controller race, are you gonna, run for office here at New York 11? We need somebody." And he said, "Well," and he demurred at the time. He said, "Well, I'll help you pick a candidate when I'm controller." So, but hopefully, if there is a primary, I could talk to him again. And I've spoken to Troy a bunch of times, and Troy is actually having a coffee hour this week on Saturday, same October 4th. I think it's at one of the coffee shops over here on Castleton Avenue.
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't, and so I'll put a link to that too. I have a lot of things to put in the show notes.
Yeah, Troy is definitely having that. And also, our judicial candidates, they're going to have a day of action as well. Kudos to Bianca Robichaud, who is the district leader in the 63rd. She is running the campaign for Matthew Santamoro, who is running for the judicial seat that is the newly created judicial seat in the North Shore, and I think Mid Island or Eastern Shore. So there will be a day of action for that as well. The time I don't know, but I know that they're going to be the campaigns, and also for Raymond Rodriguez, who is running it. His seat is an island wide seat. So they're both are going to be Raymond, Judge Ray Rodriguez, and Matthew Santamorum will have a day of action on October 4th. So October 4th is going to be busy, busy, busy. But I'm definitely gonna, me, I'm gonna post as much as I can about it, and really galvanize people to go. I'm gonna be all over the place. I may be here, there, passing out lit, going to Troy, staying, doing a little bit for Mondani, and just fighting a good fight. So yeah.
Absolutely. Well, this is the Left in the Forgotten Borough podcast. I'm Andrew Savage, and thank you so much, Jazzy, for filling Nancy's shoes for this episode.
Yes, we miss you, Nancy. I hope you come back. Don't
I
like
know she's thinking about, she's thinking about maybe settling elsewhere for all the obvious reasons, but I'm thrilled. I'll be thrilled when she comes back. She's coming back in a few weeks. This is the Left in the Forgotten Borough podcast, and we'll see you in a couple of days.
Yes, take care, everybody. Be well. Don't forget to vote.
Absolutely.